Yousuf, before we start today's episode, I need you to do something for me.
Why do I feel like I'm being set up?
Well, you have 15 seconds.
Uh-huh.
Name as many animals as you can. You ready?
All right.
Go.
Goat, zebra, leopard, elephant, tiger, lion, raccoon, feline cat, I don't know, a dog.
Time.
What happened, bro? What I win, bro?
Nothing. What do you think I was measuring?
Cognitive reasoning, memorization, maybe just how fast I'm able to answer it, verbal fluency.
Well, clearly, I wasn't measuring your wildlife because clearly you're on track. But it was like a lot of naming. Exactly. You completed a task, but you had no idea what conclusions I might draw from your behavior.
I think I might see where this is going.
Now, imagine that task was not a podcast game. Imagine that was part of like a job application that you really wanted.
I'm not gonna lie, I still prefer that over the traditional method.
I mean, that's exactly why this topic matters. Welcome back to the Super IO Bros podcast, where we break down workplace trends through an IO psychology lens. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Yousuf. Today we're talking about something that I already support before I even hear any of the criticism: gamified hiring.
Games, simulation, interactive assessments, and the possibility that candidates' next career opportunity could depend on how they perform inside one.
Which I think could be great.
I think it could be great too. If the company can prove the game measures something that actually matters.
So I'm here to, I guess, defend the innovation side of things.
And I'm here to validate the evidence. Let's get into it.
So before we even criticize games, can we admit, or at least come to a conclusion, that traditional hiring isn't perfect?
Absolutely. I mean, resumes only, they can show the education experience. They don't really show how someone can think, adapt, prioritize things, or respond under pressure.
And interviews can possibly reward people who are just naturally charismatic or able to just smooth their way up, talk the interviewer up, and just get them to like them.
Yeah, especially when interviews are unstructured. I mean, different candidates may receive different questions, different standards, and different impressions from the interviewer.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why gamification makes sense to me, because instead of just having that charisma part of just being good at interviews, you kind of give the person a challenge to see how they can adapt and overcome it, how they might respond.
Yeah, that's a strong argument for it. I mean, gamified assessments can potentially move employers from self-report to observable behaviors.
Exactly. I think everyone might say that, oh, they're a quick learner or that they're able to work well under pressure, but not everyone's going to say, oh, I'm detail oriented.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's gonna put "I don't work good under pressure" on their resume.
Yeah, and I think a game can kind of create a situation where the candidates can show their ability instead of just claiming that they're able to do something.
This is especially relevant in high-volume early career hirings. If thousands of recent graduates apply to with similar education and work experience, because it'll be limited at that point, organizations may want to find a way to differentiate candidates.
Um,
Identify potential.
yeah, I think that could help candidates who don't have the best looking resume, but or someone who doesn't have the best internship, but they might just be an excellent problem solver.
I agreed. But this is a critical distinction. There is a real need for better hiring signals, signaling whether somebody would be good for the job or they're just going to be a dud. And that does not mean every game automatically provides one.
And I think that's fair, but you're basically admitting that games do deserve a chance.
A seat at the table, I will say, but not entirely. No control of the entire table. Just a seat.
Yeah,
Give them the
so
menu. Let them
so
look over it. That's it.
yeah, but gamified hiring I feel is appealing because it gives candidates another way of showing their potential.
But the goal cannot simply be a more exciting process. I mean, the goal has to be a better hiring decision. It's not about excitement. It's not about innovation. It's about how effective is this,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So,
So we can't really do an episode about gamification without turning part of the episode into a game.
what are you proposing?
You name a hiring function. I tell you whether gamification belongs there and how it should work. Then you decide whether we keep it or we get rid of it.
Based on validity and job relevance?
Based on validity, job relevance, and whether you're willing to let anyone just have fun.
Okay. Fine, let's do it. Let's see. First function. Using gamification to show candidates what a job is actually like before they move deeper into the hiring process.
I say we keep it. That's easy.
Okay.
Because in hospitality, for example, a candidate could complete a simulated hotel shift involving a guest that's complaining, an early check-in request, or ringing a front desk phone. But in logistics, a candidate could experience route delays, customer delivery issues, package priority decisions. Meanwhile, something like healthcare administration, for example, a candidate could manage appointment conflicts, patient communication, and front office scheduling priorities.
I keep this one too. You know, the advantage is that the candidate learn about the role while the organization sees how they approach the realistic situations.
Is there a disadvantage?
A company could make a difficult job look like a polished interactive advertisement, you know, and that's not really ideal, you know, because a realistic job preview only works if it's actually realistic. So,
Okay.
I mean, which this was round one, realistic job previews for anybody out there. Now let's go round two. Early career cognitive screening. So let's talk about the next function. Screening large groups of graduate or entry-level applicants.
I think we keep it because this might just be the best use of gamification. Because, for example, in like a professional service, graduate candidates could complete reasoning and information processing challenges, but in banking and financial services, applicants could analyze changing information and adjust decisions after that feedback is received. But in technology or engineering, graduate programs candidates might be able to complete logic, any sequencing, troubleshooting exercises before they get their later, more technical interviews.
I would say keep this with caution. You know, it is one of the better supported uses when game clearly measures cognitive ability, but a reasoning score should not be treated as a complete prediction of someone's future success, you know?
Yeah, it might tell you something about problem solving, but not necessarily communication, teamwork, judgment, or maybe work ethic.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. So I'd say this is more like a maybe.
Yeah.
Keep it on the back burner.
Might have managed to convince me on that one a little bit, maybe.
All right, let's go round three. Customer service and situational judgment. Evaluating customer decision making.
Keep it, I think, 100% because we got airlines, candidates could manage a delayed flight, upset passengers, missed connections, and limited rebooking options. Or something like retail, candidates could respond to a long checkout line, like what to do there. what to do when there's an absent employee, inventory issue, or a customer complaint. And then we got, let's say, maybe a contact center, for example. Candidate might kind of work around customer cases, decide what needs to be escalated, what shouldn't be escalated, and they
Okay.
could choose appropriate responses.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, these exercises have strong face validity because candidates can see the connection to the job.
What's the drawback?
A poorly designed scenario may reward one preferred communication style rather than a truly effective behavior. I mean, human interaction is very complicated. It's very complex. A game cannot oversimplify them.
Yeah, that is true, but
I mean, it can oversimplify them. I mean,
yeah,
not
yeah, that might be true, but when
because
we compare that to like an actual like interview, for example, in the interview, they're just gonna be asking you, "Oh, what would you do in this situation?" It's not gonna be the same thing as scenario based stuff like a game kind of.
yeah, but the game might push more towards a certain type of scenario or a certain type of actions because the game has points or the game has answers, so they're measuring your responses based on a certain criteria. So definitely there's a measuring going on. So the criteria might not measure. It might prefer one communication style of handling a customer over another. Whereas I would say like communication style, by that I mean like more like a passive or maybe like a very monotone style,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe like a very problem solving. Like
Yeah,
you go ahead and you try to work with the problems, or you try to resonate with the customer. And it's all communication styles have effects because different strokes for different folks. That's what they always say. So I mean, not every communication style is going to work with every single customer. So because of that, it might limit the adaptability. It's not probably measuring the adaptability of somebody, maybe just measuring the proficiency of a certain communication style somebody might have.
yeah,
You get me?
that's pretty true.
Yeah. So let's go round 4, operations, safety, and prioritization. So for the next function, operational accuracy and safety related decision making.
I
What do you
know, I
think?
know I've been saying it for basically every single one of these, but I think we keep it, especially when the simulation actually can closely resemble actual work. Because let's say like in a warehouse, a candidate could identify something like routing errors, urgent
Hmm.
shipments,
Hmm.
or escalation, like what's important to escalate.
Okay.
And then something like manufacturing, a candidate could identify workplace hazards, equipment alerts, and maybe the correct like response sequence behind that. And then my last one would be like pharmaceutical or something like clinical supply operations. A candidate could identify like a simulated storage deviation, review documentation requirements, decide the correct like escalation steps, like how they should escalate it.
I mean, I think this may be one of the strongest examples because it focuses on observable behavior rather than trying to infer someone's hidden personal traits.
Yeah, the problem is that realistic simulations, I think, are probably the hardest ones to build.
Yeah, and more expensive to maintain. I mean, if the actual procedure changes at any given time, the assessment has to change too.
Yeah, and companies don't always want to adapt the most expensive thing.
Yeah, but you can't keep a measure that's already outdated. You would have to
Yeah, at some
either
point,
toss it or just renovate it.
yeah, at some point companies are gonna have to either make their own thing up or follow what's working, which this might be one of them. Something working, they have to kind of adapt.
I mean, definitely if it's proving as a good predictor of success. Well, let's go to round 5. Technical troubleshooting. Last function. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna say keep it again, but yeah, let's go.
Okay. Well, it's about technical troubleshooting and skill demonstration. Hit
Oh,
me.
100% keep this one. I mean, let's say cybersecurity candidates might be able to investigate simulated alerts, decide which threats require escalations.
Mm,
In IT support, candidates could diagnose a system problem
mm,
using like maybe like limited information.
okay.
Or in like engineering maintenance, candidates could inspect a simulated equipment failure and choose the best steps to diagnose it and where to proceed from there.
I keep this one as well. I mean, assuming that the interface does not get in the way,
Mm-hmm.
the assessment should measure technical thinking and not whether someone immediately understands the controls of the game. You
Yeah,
know,
so I ended up keeping every category basically.
I mean, well, because gamification can fit many functions when it is connected to real job requirements.
I feel like I feel like I low-key won.
Went into the next segment. All right. Now let's talk about who benefits and who gets left behind. I mean, before we get into the final verdict,
Hmm.
I think we need to talk about the person on the other side of the screen.
The candidate, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Because a company may look at gamified hiring, my bad, and see innovation, efficiency, and better data, but a candidate may experience it very differently.
I think that's fair. Some candidates may love it. I would probably like it, but some might prefer the more traditional test.
You would, but not everyone is you.
That is true. Not everyone can be me. But some people might feel like they might say something like, "Why am I playing a game for a serious job?" What do you?
I agree. I mean, exactly. That perception is the assessment. That perception, if the assessment feels too childish, too random, and too disconnected from the actual role, candidates may not take the process seriously at all.
Yeah, but then that's more of a design problem, not really a problem with the gamification.
I mean, I agree, but a well designed simulation can feel professional and relevant. A poorly designed game can feel gimmicky.
So you're saying that the issue is more about whether the game respects the seriousness of kind of the hiring decision.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly where the issue is. I mean, I think it's a fairness issue. I mean, candidates
Mhm.
differ in gaming experience, technology comfort, device quality, internet access. Even how comfortable they feel with timed digital tasks.
So you're saying someone who games regularly might feel very comfortable in that situation, will feel relaxed, but someone who doesn't will feel like they're kind of thrust into something that they don't really know about. They're being tested on something that has nothing to do with the job, like an unfamiliar format, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier about the
Hmm.
accessibility, but exactly. That does not mean we should eliminate gamification, but it does mean organizations need to ask, are we measuring job potential or are we measuring comfort with the format? Because you can have a shiny new toy, it looks good on the shelf,
Hmm.
but sometimes it just belongs on the shelf. It's not really good for doing tasks, doing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, kind of like fragrance notes, you look at that, you see some vanilla in there, some mango, you think it's gonna smell great, but you spray it, it smells terrible.
Man, I love mango. Not a big vanilla guy, but I don't have a sweet tooth. but I don't see mango and vanilla and think that's gonna be delicious. I see.
Mango ice cream.
I don't like ice cream.
What?
Yeah, hot take. I don't like ice cream. The only times I eat ice cream is when my girlfriend forces me to eat ice cream.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, and forces me because she won't eat it unless like I share with her or something. But I mean, you can't just look at like mango and vanilla and be like, wow, it looks innovative. It's like, oh my God, it's creative.
I don't know about creative, but yeah, I
I
get where
mean,
you're going. I
I,
get
mean,
where you're
I
going.
don't know. I'm not a perfume expert here,
I
but
thought we were talking about ice cream.
I'm talking about ice cream. No,
Whatever.
I'm talking about colognes, perfumes. Going back, I went on a little tangent there because I don't like vanilla, respectfully,
Yeah.
and my pH is on the sweet side. So if I do get vanilla, it's just gonna choke me. Basically, it's too much, too sweet. So mango, I agree. You think mango vanilla for a cologne, it's like wow, that's like unique. I've never really smelled something that has notes of vanilla and mango together because one is fruity, almost on the citrusy side. The other one is very sweet, very strong because vanilla is very strong.
Yeah.
Mango tends to be, it has a scent. It lasts long. If it gets on your hands or something, you probably smell like mango on your hands all day, but you won't smell it unless you get close. So that's kind of going back to my point where
Kind of went on a tangent there, but yeah.
it might look good on the shelf, but it might not perform good.
Yeah. So, let me see, where am I? That's actually a pretty good, I think, distinction.
Yeah, man. This is where transparency helps. I mean, candidates should not feel that they're being tricked. They do not need the answer key. They should understand the general purpose of the assessment.
So you're saying something like, this activity is designed to evaluate how you process information, adapt to changing rules, and make decisions under time constraints.
Wow, I like that voice change. Who are you? What's his persona?
Proctor.
Proctor. Nice.
Proctor 1.
Well, exactly. I mean, that makes the experience feel more legitimate, I feel.
Yeah, and I'd add that feedback definitely matters too, because if a company uses a game and then gives candidates nothing after the actual game, then it might feel like a black box, like we talked about.
I mean, right. Even basic feedback can improve candidate trust. I mean, it shows that the company not just extracting data from applicants, but it shows that it's giving them something useful in return.
Definitely, yeah. So the best version of a gamified hiring is not just for it to be fun per se, for it to also be clear, relevant, respectful, and most importantly, useful.
I'd say that is the standard,
So what's the worst
bare
version?
minimum.
So what you're saying, the worst version?
I mean, a random game, no explanation. I mean, automatic rejection, no feedback, no way to request accommodations, things
Yeah,
like that.
it sounds like less like innovation and fun, but more like just hiding behind the technology
Exactly.
excuses.
I mean, that's a common problem today.
Yeah, and I think so. Gamifications can definitely improve candidate experience when it feels engaging and relevant.
But it can damage trust when it feels confusing, childish, unfair, or disconnected from the actual job.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So this one, we're going to be talking about the biggest disadvantages.
So, Carlos, what is your strongest argument against gamified hiring?
My strongest argument, or my strongest concern, because at this point, it's not even an argument, it's a concern, right? Argument when you got something concrete. This is my concern.
All right.
construct confusion.
What do you mean by that?
A company may believe a game measures one ability, when the score is actually influenced by many unrelated factors. For example, a company creates a timed visual game and says it measures attention and decision making, but the candidate's performance might also be affected by gaming from how familiar they are to the game or gaming in general. Because what about if somebody plays game most of their life and someone doesn't?
Someone like a monk.
Comfort in technology, someone that's tech savvy, internet or device quality of that person, anxiety, visual and motor limitations, confusing instructions, prior exposure to similar games.
So you're saying the company thinks it measured decision making, but it might have actually measured decision making mixed with something like digital comfortness and accessibility. So like how kind of like how familiar the person doing this assessment is with like technology or games, and if it's like accessible to them, because they may have some disabilities that prevent them from this.
Exactly. I mean, and because the results appear as a precise score, the organizations may trust it more than they should.
That's fair, but shouldn't the same criticism kind of apply to interviews? Because in an interview, a lot of the time, being confident, being sure of yourself, just being able to sell yourself, kind of talk to the interviewer, and sometimes it might lead off the road. It might be like you get into a similar hobby and you start chatting, and then the interviewer ends up liking you because of that. Shouldn't it also apply to that? Because all of those things can influence the interview's ratings.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, traditional methods are not automatically fair, but gamification should not get a free pass just because it's newer and more digital.
So you think something like standardization can help, but it doesn't necessarily eliminate the bias behind it.
Correct. I mean, every candidate receiving the same game does not guarantee every candidate has the same opportunity to demonstrate their relevant skills.
Yeah, I think this might be where accessibility becomes a pretty big issue.
But yeah. Yes, I mean, the U.S. Department of Justice has specifically warned that interactive games and algorithms supported hiring tools can create disability discrimination. I mean, when they measure irrelevant sensory, manual, and communication limitations instead of abilities required for the job. Employers also need to need processes for candidates to request accommodations. I mean, you can't have a game that requires rapid eye movement and to distinction of colors, and then you have someone that's colorblind and with a lazy eye.
Yeah, like
they're definitely going to be more. It's not going to be as fair to them because there's some colors they can't distinguish at the same time. So it might be harder for them to realize what color it is, and they might get it wrong. So having accommodations set in place, which a lot of companies do not normally, like when it comes to gamification, yeah, I mean, that's something to always think about. How can you make it accessible to people that have limitations, physical or mental?
Yeah, 100%. Because some of those things might not have anything to do with the actual job. It's just limiting the person from doing the tasks necessary for that job. Because, like you said, rapid clicking game shouldn't just screen someone out of something like an admin position because their clicking speed has nothing to do with actually like performing the job.
Exactly.
And even beyond that accessibility, I think candidate trust matters. So like if I get rejected after playing a strange game and nobody explains what was being measured, I don't know what strange game.
What kind of strange game? Slenderman?
Yeah, Slenderman is crazy. Old. That's how you know this guy's old. But if I get rejected after playing like any strange game or something, I don't know if I'm leaving that interview experience or that gamified assessment experience with a positive view of that company.
Talking about always the same age, Unk. Actually, I'm the youngest.
You'll cut that out. Cut
You're
that.
a
I'm
month
joking.
older than me. But I mean, I think this is a black box problem. All right. Companies do not have to reveal their entire scoring system, but candidates should understand the general ability being evaluated, why it matters to the role, whether accommodations are available, whether the game is one component or the entire decision of whether or not they get hired, whether any feedback is provided
So
after.
yeah, so a company should not only gamify the process, but try to like humanize it in a way.
Yeah, I mean, that may be the best point you have made all episode.
How many points did I get across?
Buddy, this is the best one.
That's crazy.
I'll give you that one. So, still none though.
That's crazy. I'm not
You,
winning.
you got no points. So, a game, let's see what we got so far. A game can be modern, engaging, and data rich while still being a poor hiring tool if it does not measure the right thing fairly.
It's important to maybe make sure it's measuring what it's measuring correctly and fairly, but I'll get there. I'll get something across.
Well, what's the final verdict, Yousuf?
Look, let me make my final case, all right? So, I think traditional hiring already has a bunch of limitations. Your resume has to look good and it favors people who already know how to present themselves, right? Like, you always see people constantly being like, oh, what's the best resume format? What's the best template? Should I have a summary? Should I not have a summary? You know, all those
True.
things.
Yeah.
And interviews also favor someone, I've already said this, but someone who can like interview well. Obviously, that
Yeah.
can come from practice, doing a lot of interviews over time, but some people just never get there. They might be very good at what they do, but the actual interview itself, they might not be charismatic, they might not be like confident in themselves, they might be very nervous because in their head they're already thinking like, oh, I need to get this interview right. I need to do this right. And then they get hit with a curveball out of nowhere and it spirals everything they prepared for. But this also kind of limits early career candidates because they might just have some potential that is never seen through the screening. And I think a well designed game can give these candidates another chance to demonstrate how they think, adapt, prioritize, and solve problems. It might make the process more engaging, especially when the activity feels connected to the work itself. But I'm not saying that every hiring decision should be a game because that's just not realistic. But I'm saying that organizations shouldn't just reject these potential better tools just because they might look different than what they're already used to.
I mean, my final position is that gamification should earn its role in hiring. It has to be earned, not granted, you know?
Yeah.
A game is not valid because it is fun. It is not fair because everyone receives the same screen. It is not objective simply because an algorithm produces a score.
Yeah.
A responsible gamified assessment must be connected to the actual job requirements, tested for reliability and validity, evaluated for fairness and accessibility, transparent enough for candidates to understand its purpose and the function, what it's going to be measuring, and used alongside other appropriate selection methods just to amplify, just to dove in a little bit more about what a candidate could be like.
So what you're saying is you're not anti gamification.
I'm anti-mystery game, deciding someone's career without evidence.
Yeah, like that animal one, bro. Almost kicked me off the podcast from that.
I mean, the future of hiring is probably not games replacing interviews. I'm just saying.
I mean, it is better combinations: games, work samples, realistic simulations, structured interviews, and better data.
Exactly. Gamification works best when it adds useful evidence, not when it replaces judgment with a score nobody understands.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that part. So, what are our closing takeaways? So, for me, my takeaway is that gamified hiring exists because organizations need better ways to identify potential. That's one of them.
Well, I think candidate engagement matters, but engagement is not the same thing as validity.
And I do think that it works best in realistic job previews, cognitive screening, customer judgment, operational simulations, and technical troubleshooting.
The biggest disadvantage is misinterpretation. I mean, what a game score actually means.
Yeah, it all depends on how the company's measuring that score. But also, takeaway for me is that the strongest hiring process does not depend on one tool, but a combination of multiple sources of evidence.
So, let's do some closing questions to you guys. So, we want to hear from you. If a company asked you to complete a game-based assessment for a job, would you trust the process?
And would you trust that process more if the company clearly explained what was being measured, why it mattered, and how this would all be used in the end?
Let us know your thoughts and follow the Super IO Bros podcast for more conversations about work, talent, and future of organizations.
And I do think I won that animal game, bro. Low key.
No. I mean, well, I guess we wouldn't know because we didn't have a really criteria. Didn't have a measure. We didn't
I'm
have a rubric.
I'm gonna choose to believe that I won because that's what matters.
You still don't know what it measured though.
Measured greatness.
I see. Catch you in the next time.